All right. All right, here we go. So here's the start of our customization breakout. I think I'm going to start by essentially showing you guys a little bit about how I have my Atom set up and my terminal set up. And so there's plugins for Atom, there's themes for Atom, there's themes for your terminal. You can customize the look, the feel of it. You can add like extra tab complete features and stuff like that. I don't have a ton of plugins because sometimes you can get a little bogged down in that stuff, but ultimately you can do really cool things. So if you open up your Atom, and you guys can follow along with this, if you open up your Atom and you hit Command, I guess it's Command comma, that will open up your settings page. You can do the same thing by like navigating through the top bar, but again, we want to get you guys used to keyboard shortcuts. So you'll see you have core, editor, bindings, all sorts of stuff like that. What we're going to look at right now is packages. So if you click on packages, you'll see there's a bunch of core packages that Atom has installed by default. You can change settings and stuff for them. There's a ton of them. But we want to focus on community packages right here. So as you see, I don't have too many installed. But what you can do here is you can search for you can search for packages that you have installed, and if you click over to install on the left tab, you can search for other packages to install. So I've got a list here, a really good list of packages, which or plugins, which same thing, packages, plugins, that I'm going to Slack out to you guys. You can take a look at this list. So there are some that are like maybe more important than others. Ultimately, everything on this list is pretty useful, but I want to highlight a few in particular. Something like that. So these plugins are separated into a few different types here. We've got coding helpers and autocomplete stuff, more snippets. Again, we want you guys to like get comfortable with what the actual content is before you start using snippets for everything. But at a certain point, once you kind of understand what's going on, they do save you a lot of time. And then linting, I don't think I'm going to go deep into linting right now, but essentially what a linter is, it's a package you can install for Atom that kind of like is your own personal style guide. So like indentation guides. It'll highlight essentially every line if you essentially if you're not writing code that meets the standards that we'll probably all agree on some of them, and then you can customize a little bit of your own, then your linter will essentially yell at you and it'll display a little it'll display like here a little red mark. Like there's nothing wrong with this right now, so the linter isn't upset about anything. But each line will show you essentially your linter will start yelling at you, and it'll explain to you what you agree. Right? It's like a validator, exactly. It's like a built-in validator, and it validates each line according to rules that you set up. So they're super useful. We may do another breakout entirely on linting because it is ultimately really important. So I want you guys to focus on this double tag right here, and you can follow along and install it if you want. Double tag, essentially, it lets you edit both the start and the end of an HTML tag at the same time. I should have had an example up here. I'm sorry, I don't. So I'm gonna see if I can show you guys an example of this. But essentially, like sometimes if you're editing like an opening tag, you can forget to edit the closing tag, and then that screws everything up, right? Because the tags no longer match up. So
it's just called double tag?
Yeah, it's called double tag. So you know what? Forget about the example. If you click on the link,
oh yeah, it shows you usually, doesn't it?
It'll take you to the page. Yeah, so you can see in this little video, as soon as you select like the main, it's also, and you delete something from the main, it's also editing like the closing tag. So you don't by accident only edit one or the other. It's extremely useful, and it's you know, like even though we want you guys to get comfortable with what these tags mean and whatnot, it's like this is just a convenience thing, and it just helps you from not like screwing yourself over basically without meaning to. So that's super useful.
Is the package called double tag?
Yeah, if you want to install it, if you go open up your Atom, go to your settings and click on install. And again, to get to your settings, do Command comma. And you can search. If you type in double tag in the search, it will search for the package. And then I already have it installed, so it's showing me uninstall option, but the middle of these three options here will be install. So you guys can all do that right now. You can do it later. Another one I want to show you guys that I highly recommend installing is this auto-closed HTML tags. So this is like a similar thing, but essentially when you write an opening tag, this will also write a closing tag for you. So it saves you a little bit of time. And you can install it essentially in the same way. If you search for, what's it called again? Auto-close HTML. Oh yeah, it does. It's the second one there. So yeah, I recommend installing both of those. I actually don't have auto-close HTML installed, so I'll install that right now.
Seems like those first two are similar, aren't they?
They're similar. So like the auto-close, as soon as you write an opening one, like a new one, it creates the closing.
Okay.
And then the editing one means like if you want to change like a div to like a section and make it more semantic, it will edit, like as you're editing the opening tag, it'll edit the closing tag as well.
Okay.
So yeah, they kind of go hand in hand.
And the auto close, like some tags don't need a closing tag, does it?
It knows that. Yeah. So tags that don't need closing tags, it won't like produce one and screw up your HTML.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's a bunch of autocomplete things here. I actually don't use any of these. You can install them if you want to, but again, I want to just warn you guys to like be careful about relying too much in the early going here on snippets and autocomplete stuff. So I would maybe hold off on some of these autocomplete things until you get a little more comfortable with exactly what you're doing. So under linting and style, I want to mention this plugin. It's called Beautify. I think pretty much everyone in my cohort installed it, but then we were really encouraged not to use it that much because it can be a crutch. So what Beautify does is if you're writing HTML and your HTML is super messy and it's not indented properly, you can hit a quick keyboard command and it will beautify your code. So it will like indent everything. It's in a way super useful, but again, it's ultimately a crutch. And the best thing to do in the long run is to install a linter and get that set up the way you want and like write your code properly from the get-go using the linter. So I do want to mention it just so you guys know what it is. If you hear any other people talking about it, that's what Beautify does. It does it for HTML, it does it for CSS, JavaScript, other languages. But if you're going to install it, please just be careful. Like, don't get in the habit of just writing messy code and beautifying it because ultimately that's going to hold you back as a programmer in the long run. This advanced open file, actually not sure what this one does. I don't use this. CDN.js, so we're not using CDNs much right now, but ultimately what a CDN is, it's a way to link in a style sheet or JavaScript files that live on the internet, that are hosted in the cloud somewhere. So you guys are going to learn next week, I think, about jQuery. jQuery is a JavaScript library. It's extremely common. It's one of the sort of like core libraries for JavaScript and modern web development. And essentially what a CDN does, it lets you put in a link to the jQuery library itself that like Google hosts or CDN.js hosts. So you don't have to actually download that library and have it on your local machine and linked in locally to like every project that you do. So we're probably not going to be using it that much right now, but if you guys want to install CDN.js, it gives you like snippets to basically bring in links to other libraries and whatnot.
We can mention it later on when we start.
Definitely. And like ultimately, like it's not a cheat or anything. It's just a time saver because otherwise you have to like go to CDN.js and essentially like find there's jQuery. You see, it's like the first one. You have to like type in and search for the thing you want. So if we type in jQuery, there's jQuery. Then we can copy this link and paste it in a script tag. But ultimately, so it's just like a time saver. But yeah, don't worry about that for right now. And then library and framework support. Again, we haven't introduced you guys to Bootstrap or Angular. Angular is a quarter 3 thing. front-end framework. These are autocomplete snippets. Bootstrap is a CSS library. We're probably going to teach you guys about Bootstrap and about Materialize. They're two of the most popular CSS frameworks. Right now, we want you guys to focus on like writing, all your CSS and whatnot from scratch. Eventually, you will be like taught about tools that give you kind of like pre-configured CSS stuff, HTML and CSS stuff. So when we get to that point, that might be a good time to install Bootstrap. And then, all right, let's talk a little bit about themes. So you can customize, in addition to installing like packages and whatnot, you can customize the look and feel of Atom itself. So if you open up your Atom, go to your settings, you have a UI theme. It's got 4 installed by default. And you can, as you select it, you can see it changes. I think the Atom Dark, or One Dark is the default. I just use that one. I don't know if it's because I didn't know about themes until later in the cohort, but I got really comfortable with the way this one looks and feels, so I stick with that one. But feel free to change it as much as you want. And then you can also change syntax, a syntax theme. So this is like how files get highlighted, like what the coloring is of when you're actually looking at your code. I think I pretty much just stick with the base one too, but there are options basically for customizing your Atom, getting it looking how you want, and there are you can like download other themes too. There's community themes. Here are the core themes down here, but ultimately you can download themes as well. And I have a link that I will Slack out. I'll Slack out all of these links to you guys so you have them for reference. But we've got a collection of themes. Actually, the link isn't right here. So, all right, so that's kind of Atom stuff in a nutshell. I think someone mentioned during stand-up that he found a list of keyboard shortcuts. I've also got a list of some of the most valuable keyboard shortcuts right here. I'll Slack this out to the group. So you can, this is like a quick reference. It's not like totally comprehensive, but these are the ones that you might want to use, that you might find the most useful. And again, we'll try and get away from using the mouse and using the keyboard because ultimately you can be faster working that way. All right, so that kind of covers some of the Atom stuff, the plugins and the themes. And I will get you guys the links to the themes if you guys want to check out some of the community themes for that. So let's talk a little bit about customizing your terminal. So hopefully everyone at this point now has Zish and iTerm installed. Is that, yeah? You guys good on that? Okay. So you may have noticed that Berto and I both have terminals that look probably a little different than yours, and both look kind of similar. We've got different colors, but we both have kind of like this display that shows you what your actual path is rather than just kind of the current folder that you're in. So I want to show you guys about Zish themes. So right now just follow along on my screen. But there is a wiki online for Oh My Zish, and Oh My Zish is essentially like what we had you guys install when we had you install Zish as well. So there's a ton of different themes that you can install for Zish, and it comes with a bunch already installed, and then there are some community themes that you can find as well. So actually, I'll Slack this link out right now, and if you guys want to follow along and take a look at some of the themes, you can check this out. So this wiki is really nice because it gives you the name of the theme, and it also, for I think pretty much all of them, shows you a little bit of what it looks like. So Robbie Russell is the default one. That's probably the one that most of you have right now. But you can scroll through this at your leisure. You can see Agnoster here is the one that I'm using. And in order to use Agnoster, you use these things called Powerline fonts, which are like what give you like these icons right here. It gives you some cool icons to show you when you're working in a Git repo, if that repo is up to date, and if it is, you'll see this green. If you make changes, it'll turn like orange and show you a little icon. Once you've added, it shows you another icon. Once you've committed, it shows you another. And then once you push, it brings you back to green. So it kind of can be a nice visual aid to help you understand where you're at with Git when you're working with a Git repo.
And it gives you the path.
And it gives you the path, yeah. Yeah, I highly recommend Agnoster. It's just like my personal favorite, honestly, partially because Berto had it installed when I went through my cohort, and I was like, oh my god, man, I want mine to look like yours. Like, show me how you did that. So if anyone wants to get that one specifically set up like this, it takes a little bit more work, but we can do that. Right here, right now, if you guys want.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I have it, but like it just doesn't. I'm getting like question marks instead of the little.
Yeah, so
that's
these Powerline fonts.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, cool. Yeah. So you know what? Let's just So here's all these themes. You guys can. There's a ton of them. They actually don't accept new themes because there are so many right now, and they kind of want to like shut the fire hose off. But this is one of the cool things about iTerm and about Zish is that you can really get your terminal like personalized and customized however you want. So if you want to use the Agnoster theme, the first thing you need to do, change directory to your home, your tilde. And once you've done that, type in atom.zishrc. And this opens your zishrc file. It's essentially your configuration file for Zish.
Wait,
Atom.zish what?
Atom space dot zish.
RC. Yeah.
That's where you want to be, right? Yeah. Okay. I've got that installed.
You do?
I'm going to work on that Flexbox stuff.
Go ahead.
Probably watch your video later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah,
I appreciate
feel
that.
free.
I linked copied your links and
Yeah,
stuff.
that
For the
goes
other.
before this.
Yeah, feel free at any time if you guys think your time would be better used elsewhere. Go right
But
ahead.
I do like Agnoster. It looks awesome.
Cool. Yeah. So
Okay, enter.
your
Yeah.
zishrc file has like a bunch of stuff essentially commented out. The important part in terms of changing the theme, you should see towards the top. There's this Zish theme, and you can change that to basically the name of any of the themes that are on here, and it'll just change your Zish.
Just do Agnoster then.
Yeah. So if you type Agnoster in there, close timeout. If you type in Agnoster there, that will set up your Agnoster theme, or that'll switch it over to Agnoster theme.
Do you press enter or anything?
You need
You
to
have to
save the file. Yeah. Yeah.
And then
and
you also have to close down your terminal and open it back up again.
Yeah, there's another. If you don't want to close down your terminal, you can type source in the terminal space dot zishrc. And what that does is that like essentially refreshes the Zish file, the configuration file. Sometimes you do have to like quit and restart, but generally speaking, source zishrc should work. So that probably switched your theme, but you're seeing like maybe some weird icons.
Question marks, yeah.
Yeah, so you're seeing
That's
like
my
question
house.
marks, etc.
Okay.
Okay, so and that's the reason for that is that these Powerline fonts aren't installed. So let's install those together.
I want to make sure I'm caught up with it.
Power line.
So if you change that, to Agnoster, Agnoster.
I never really told one of these spells.
Then that will that should get you up to speed.
We can close the Atom file now,
Yeah, you can close it. Although you know what, leave it open for now because we might want to change. Yeah, you can close it. Actually, you can close it.
right?
Okay, now for the Powerline fonts, I'm gonna Slack out a link. What we're all gonna have to do is you're gonna need to clone this repo down, and we'll install it together. It's just a couple of commands. It's not a big deal. But yeah, if you
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
So we don't have to fork it or anything, just clone it.
do you have Zish installed?
It should be.
You don't have to fork it, right? You just clone it.
Yeah, you can just clone it.
Yeah. That's the one.
All right, you're still on Bash.
Okay.
Do we
So
Yeah,
Off the
you
top
just
of my head,
clone or download. Oh, I don't know.
Does it
Not
matter where
sure.
we save it or just in our?
if I can get you on Zish right now.
Oh, that's
I'm not sure if you have Zish installed.
That's a good question.
Okay.
But don't worry about it. Just follow along, and we can sit down together and we'll get you set up.
Clone it, copy it, and then is it get clone?
Yeah. So clone it. Yeah. Copy the link. Go over to your terminal. You can go to your workspace.
It doesn't matter where we clone it to.
It doesn't really matter. No. So you can clone it into your workspace.
Can I just do it on that extension after the question marks? Then? Is that fine?
Sorry.
Like, right after that, I can just do get clone. And
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All right. And once you have it cloned, I think they actually have the instructions here. So yeah, if you scroll down, once you have it cloned on the GitHub page of the repo, they have some instructions on how to install it. It's essentially basically just one command you need to use. It's a /install.sh. So you can just copy that straight over from, or actually, you know what, I think you need to cd into the directory.
The one that you cloned.
Yeah, so if you do, after you clone it, do cd fonts.
Okay.
That will take you into the font. Or excuse me, that will take you into the directory. And then once you're in the directory, if you go over to the GitHub repo, you can copy the command, or you can type it out if you want.
Hashtag with everything.
You don't know, you can just do the /install.sh. You can copy the whole thing actually, and what that'll do is it will, except leave out the git clone because we already did that. It'll install the fonts. You know what? Yeah, just do the
I'm just gonna
/.
do that.
Do just for now, for simplicity's sake, let's just copy the install command.
Okay.
So now if we paste that in and hit enter, it will install these Powerline fonts into your default font library. Because the reason why those icons you're seeing question marks right now is that your Mac by default does not have those fonts installed. So does everybody have them installed now? Just run that install command? Okay, good. So now if you click on the Apple icon in the upper left corner of your screen, of your computer, open up your system preferences, or you can select it from your menu bar if you have it there, and type in font, I believe.
Font smoothing?
Oh, wait, actually, you know what? Never mind. Never mind that. We actually don't need, you can close down your system preferences. What we need to do here is if you get back to your terminal and hit Command, that'll open the preferences for your terminal itself. Once you have that open, click on Appearance, or Profiles, sorry. Yeah, and then there's like a menu bar. It's by default it's on General. If you click over to Text and Font, which is towards the bottom, click on that Change Font button. And this will open up a font screen where you can, so ultimately what we want to get on, you can select for family, you can select, if you scroll down to Meslo, LG, actually there's a bunch that use Powerline. The one I use is Meslo LGMDZ for Powerline. It's the third one from the top, from the first Meslo one.
LGMDZ.
Yeah. So if you click on that, it'll select it. Typeface, switch to regular for Powerline. And I use size 14. You can use whatever size you want, but I use size 14. And once you have that selected, if you click back over to your terminal, you should see that those question marks have changed to actual icons.
So pretty.
Yeah? Yeah? All right, cool. Now also, if you want to, you can click to your click onto colors, still from the profiles. It's the one to the left of text, And I've customized mine a little bit. You can change all of these. You can play around with what they do. If you want to get it sort of looking the way mine is, and then customize it from there, if you click on color presets in the lower right of this window, you can click on, I think Solarized Dark was sort of the starting point I went from. And the only things I've only changed like one or two things, and it was just in a specific case where something was being hidden. There were colors that were overlapping. But if you just go to Solarized Dark, Solarized Light, I mean, you can play around with whichever ones you want. This is the place where you can customize sort of the presets. And then from there, you can play around with all of these other, with basically every one of them.
And you can do your contrast. You can make
Yeah.
it light or dark.
Yeah, you can change your contrast. I think there's some window transparency stuff in here as well.
That's under window.
Yeah, if you click over to window, you can play around with the transparency of your terminal. So, I mean, I wouldn't recommend going all the way transparent.
Very
Start with
confusing.
that.
Yeah, I actually just leave mine opaque, but I usually keep my terminal on its own window and just sort of slide back and forth when I need to get to it. I know a lot of people really like having some transparency, so again, total personal preference on how you want to customize that. So is everything looking okay now with your path and whatnot and the icons? All right, cool,
Yeah.
great. So you may notice that you're still probably seeing your full username at the beginning of your path. Is that the case?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you want to, you can get rid of that. I like to just see. I feel like I don't need to see the username, and it sort of clutters up the screen, especially if you like to like zoom in a little bit and make the text bigger. So do you guys want to learn how to get rid of that? Okay, cool. So if you closed your zsrc file, I apologize. Open it up again, and to do that, just as a reminder, cd to your home directory and type in atom space dot zsrc. That'll open up your config file for zish. And if you scroll down, I think you can actually write this rule anywhere. I have it just below. If you scroll down a little bit, it'll show plugins and source. I think I just created a comment that says user configuration just for my own clarity. But ultimately, what you want to do is you want to add this line that sets your default user. So if you do in all caps default underscore user equals and then in quotes your username, that will essentially remove like your username from the path so that you don't see it every time. And I will Slack this out as well, just so you guys have it for reference. Let's just change this to your username. And I will also put together a reference to all this stuff.
Is it the whole thing then? Is that what they have to do from there? Or is it just the S-Boulay?
Just the S-Boulay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just the
Yeah.
first part before the at.
Yeah, just what comes before the at. You don't need the like at your MacBook or whatever it says.
Okay.
It's essentially the username that you created when you that you log into your computer with. Yeah.
And then how do we test if it worked?
You could try source.zsrc. I think for this particular one, you might need to restart your whole terminal.
Okay.
So I'm just going to follow along. We'll quit out of iTerm. You can hit Command Space and start typing iTerm.
Yeah, it worked.
It'll open it
After
back up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so once you have it sort of loaded up again, awesome. Sweet. So I think that's the main stuff I wanted to cover with customizing your terminal. I do have some links.
I have one question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Whenever I open mine, the window is really tiny, like, and I'm always like resizing it
Yeah.
bigger. Is there a way to like?
Set.
'Cause usually, it like remember for other applications, it remembers the last size that you had your window.
Yeah.
But this one just resets to like a tiny window. every
Yeah.
time.
Let me see if mine does the same thing. Oh, whoops. That's not what I wanted to do.
I think I have to type the whole thing out because it just showed up the whole, like Sally's MacBook.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, mine's still
Yeah, I'm trying that now, and it's still
Yeah,
shows
mine-
the same
mine
way.
was
As
Yours
soon as I
does.
reopened it, it was like,
All right, well,
You
yeah.
have to quit your terminal because I did the same
I did
thing
quit
and it
it.
didn't work. I did
I
too.
quit it and reopened it. I'll just test it this way and see.
Try, and if it still doesn't work, I think that there's another command that you can maybe add after the default user thing.
Oh, you know, I'm probably didn't do save when I did it. Check
Oh.
first.
Okay. You know what? I'm not sure about the default size when you open it up. I'll look into that and I'll
Oh,
get back to you.
I
There's
just
a-
did it. Hold
I
on one
know.
sec. Grab it.
For iTerm,
Yeah, the default size of the window.
I think you can, in.
It's probably somewhere in the
preferences,
preferences.
You can do appearance, hold on, let me find it.
It might be in profiles window.
Yeah, now it works.
It is in
Excellent.
profiles.
Awesome. Cool.
In profiles window, there's settings for new windows. You change your column and rows to be.
Yeah, here you go.
Hey.
Yeah, so if you want to change the default size of your actual your iTerm window
Yeah.
when you've quit and
I
restarted,
needed to say that.
navigate to window or go to open up your settings, go to profiles, window, and then these settings for new window you can customize. Right? Maybe I'll go ahead and change it also while I'm at it. Yeah. And then also remember that spectacle is your best friend in terms of quickly resizing.
Right, I still need to practice with
Yeah,
spectacle
it
'cause
takes
I
a little
haven't-
while to like get used to like, oh, this is
I've
my
used,
go-to.
like, other things like this,
We
but
get
I
it.
don't use
We're smart.
Yeah, if you can get in the habit, it's just it's
Yeah,
so useful.
totally.
Once it becomes part of
We
your
are
like
incredible.
thought process on when you need to resize, it's the best.
Cool.
All right. So, any questions?
I have a random question.
Yeah,
So
sure.
When I have the other terminal, I try to exit out of that, but it had all the Zish and all that saved to it. So when I try to close it, it says like, close this window will terminate running processes. Zish.
Interesting.
So I just don't know how to get out.
closing it.
Will it shut down Zish?
messes up your iTerm.
How would I know?
Alright.
Looks like you're fine.
I don't think it does mess it up because I closed mine because I was worried about it.
Okay.
But I closed it and I think it's
But
fine.
I just didn't want to like open it up all the time. Well, I'm clear. There it is.
So just
So it's just-
maybe even just for the video for reference here, I want to show a quick example of how the highlighting for the Powerline fonts works. So I'm going to create, I'm just going to create like a test repo.
I like the way this looks better.
Yeah, it's nice, right?
Yeah.
It especially helps, I think, if you are sort of a visual learner or like, I don't know. I always found before I did the Powerline and this theme that I was like not knowing exactly where I was pathwise.
Yeah,
So
you
I
have to hit
Well, if you see all the
PWD
words
constantly.
right,
everything,
exactly. So this really helps you not have to hit PWD all the
That's
time
exactly
to
why I downloaded this.
yeah.
You can
So
see the path
Mhm.
all the way through. So if you have to if you're gonna move something, you know how far you have to go back out or
True.
where you have to push through.
So I'm just gonna, for the video, show people how sort of like this highlighting works for Git stuff. So I'm just making a test folder, making an index.html file. I'm gonna initialize this as a Git repo.
I like your picture.
And then as you can see, master is that the branch that I'm currently on. So that's letting me know that this is a Git repo. If you don't see anything after the current directory, you're not in a Git repo. So it's a good way right off the bat to tell if this is a Git repository or not. And then you can see that it's orange right now because I have like commits I need to make. If you do git add -a, then you see this plus icon. Then if you do git commit -m, we'll just do initial commit for this. Then you see, all right, now I've added my changes, I've committed them, now I'm back to green. So green is essentially like all systems go, everything's good. Your local Git is you're fully staged. All of your recent changes have been added to Git and committed. So that's super helpful. I find it super helpful at least.
We can close out of that Zish RC file.
Yeah, you can close out of that Zish RC file. In the future, I want to do a breakout on aliasing. You can essentially like assign like 1 to however many keystrokes to be full lines of terminal code. That's super, super useful. For right now, we want you guys to practice with getting used to the commands, typing them all out, but just know that once you really get that down, we'll do a breakout on making you more productive. Yeah, and like ultimately you can alias just about anything you want. I know Berto uses a ton of aliases. Like he even has his split into a separate file, so it doesn't clutter up that zshrc. You can even create like function aliases. So a really common one, I have an alias function called mkcd. So if I do mkcd and then the name of a new folder or directory, it creates that folder and then CDs into it in one line.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's like make dir and then CD into the whatever the name of it. So that's a super common.
Feature already.
Yeah, that's a super common and useful one. We'll definitely do another breakout and show you guys, teach you all about aliasing and more about like this kind of stuff you can do in that zshrc file. So yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank
you.
Drake, we'll get you set up with Zish and all this stuff sometime this afternoon or maybe even a little before lunch here. And yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Clap, everybody.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it.